Hey, Rockstar Agents, Rock Solid Agents. I can't say Rockstar Agents. Someone didn't like that. Hello, Rock Solid Agents. It's Dan Rochon. Today, I'm really, really happy to be joined with somebody amazing, Mr. Mike Hogan from the Hogan Group. Hello, Michael.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well. So, Mike, you've led a team to 50 transactions 5 years ago to 800 transactions a day. And that's what we're going to really dive deep into is really, I mean, that's a massive growth. And 50 is not bad either, by the way. Of course, you know that. And really talking about your journey.
Yeah, man. I'm ready to go.
So Mike, when did you get in real estate?
So I first got licensed in 2005. But I had been in real estate for a little while before that. I got into real estate because I was investing. I was buying some rentals. I was doing some flips. And, quite honestly, I really just didn't like working with real estate agents. Very few of them got the investor mindset. So after a while, I just kind of was over it and said, you know what, I'm just going to go get my license so I can get access to the MLS and I don't have to deal with these guys.
Got it.
And that's kind of how it started. So that was 2005.
So you started as an investor. Before we dive into this, I don't know. I completely skipped this. You have the coolest office in the world today. I just want to just acknowledge you for that and say how cool that is.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional. I've got some work being done on a weekend house that I own, and I couldn't exactly be in the house today or in the office today because of it. So yeah, this certainly doesn't suck. That's for sure.
I mean, I'm like, I gotta redecorate over here. I mean, you got it going on, man.
Yeah, it's okay for sure. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Sorry for the distraction. I just wanted to acknowledge that. So you started as an investor 2005, and you really wanted to say, hey, you know, I'm not happy with the agents that I'm working with, and I think that having the access to the data, and particularly in 2005, where it wasn't available as it is today for the consumer marketplace.
Yep.
And that's what got you started.
Yeah, it was, and really from 2005 till about 2010. I really wasn't focusing on selling. I mean, I was an agent at that point, and I'd sell a few to some buddies and some other investors and some close personal friends. But I never really focused on real estate as a business, other than my flips. I was doing flips during that time up until about 2010. And then, of course, right about that 2008, 2009 timeframe, flipping wasn't exactly a great business to be in. So basically I pivoted. I was like, all right, what do I need to do to make it here? And jumping into sales in 2010 seemed pretty logical, but in hindsight, it was probably one of the worst times ever to get into actually start selling real estate. But it's all good. It worked out well, and came out the other side doing pretty well.
Fantastic. And so take us back 5 years. So 5 years ago, you tell me about where were you in your business 5 years ago?
Yeah, sure. So 2014 was kind of the genesis of the team. Again, from 2010 to about 2013, 2014, I was basically trying to recreate the wheel. I wanted to be a successful real estate agent, but I thought I was smarter than everybody else, and just figured, you know what? I'm a smart guy. I've got an MBA. I can be successful in this business. And I just was really spinning wheels again, trying to recreate the wheel. And it was late 2013. I was on a family vacation, and I read Gary Keller's Red Book for the first time.
Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
I wasn't with KW at that point. And I read that, and I was like, holy crap, this is exactly what I've been trying to do. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people that have been doing this all along. Why am I trying to recreate this when they've already done it? I read that book cover to cover on that vacation, and then probably read it another 3 or 4 times pretty quickly after that. And that really became my framework for how I was going to build my business. So
let me stop you there if I may.
Yeah.
Because I wanna bring you back between 11 and the end of 13, because you said, hey, I was really ambitious, and I tried things that I thought that I knew the journey. And what specifically did you try that did not work? I'm curious about that before we dive into what did work.
There's a lot of things that worked, but they worked on a pretty small scale. The normal stuff. It was door knocking, it was farming. It was all these things, branding and so forth. And all of it worked to a degree, but not at the scale at which I really wanted to do it.
Okay.
And that's what kind of led me. I actually got introduced to Zillow in that 2010, 2011, 2012 timeframe, and was doing a little bit with them during that time. I remember my first Zillow purchase was $250 a month, and I was scared to death to tell my wife that I spent $250 a month because she would have killed me.
I get you.
So it was all those little things that real estate agents do. But quite honestly, I was doing 100 different things, and I wasn't good at one, and that's what really was holding me back.
Okay. So now fast forward 2013, end of 2013, you go on vacation with your family, you find this book
Yep.
called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Yep.
You read it once, you read it another 3 times, and then what?
Yep. So I started. I was basically at level 1. I had to hire an admin. I knew to myself. I knew myself well enough to know, hey, there's some things in my business that are falling through the cracks. And I was doing okay as an individual agent. I was probably doing 20, 30 deals a year, making a decent living.
Sure.
But I was seeing I started tracking all the deals that fell through because of a screw up that I made, and unfortunately, there were a lot of them.
What do you mean? What do you mean a screw up that you made?
You know what? I didn't return somebody's phone call in time. I just dropped the ball, and there were a lot of balls being dropped because I'm really not an organized guy. And it wasn't until later on that I figured out that I was not alone in that issue. So, I wasn't organized. I didn't handle transactions well, even though I thought I did. I just didn't do a very good job of managing transactions. And again, if somebody would call me, I wouldn't get back to them. And I just let balls drop. And it's because I wasn't organized. I didn't have a system in place. I didn't have somebody helping me on the back end.
All right. So then you said admin 1.
Hired an admin, and I went through a couple of different admins trying to find the right one. And I eventually did find the right one. That was late 2013 when I hired her. And then got into 2014. I hired my first buyer's agent in January of 2014. And hiring my first buyer's agent scared the living crap out of me because, just like everybody thinks when they're starting to grow is nobody can handle my clients the way I do. Everybody wants me. They don't want somebody else. If they call in, they only want to see Mike Hogan show up or whatever. And I thought like that. And so hiring that first agent was a real stretch for me. And unfortunately, the agent was horrible. I think he was probably with me, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, and I fired him. And it was because, he wasn't following up with leads. He was basically bringing true everything that I thought. And that's what I was concerned about. And it honestly, it made me gun shy to hire another agent.
Yeah. But kudos to you for making that quick exit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was,
do that.
Yeah. It was, I realized it right away. And I mean, it was so bad that the guy wouldn't even respond to me to come into the office so that I could fire him. I ended up having to fire him via text because he wouldn't come into the office to meet me.
Okay.
So from there, I kept going. I was a little gun shy to hire another agent, and I had my admin who was doing an amazing job for me, and I was continuing to grow. And I was probably at that point I was at about 45, 50 sales a year. And June of 2014, I hired my real first agent, David, who, by the way, is still with me today. He was agent number 1. And the very next month later, I hired agent number 2, Alicia, who is also still with me today and who is now my sales director. So both of them were with me from the beginning.
Okay, Alicia, and what was the gentleman's name?
David.
Please? David. All right,
David
Alicia and David. Real quick, they were good hires.
Very good hires.
What made you realize that? Do you recall?
They were engaged. They were asking questions. They were following up with people. They would be in the office with me as I was following up with people, so they were learning what I was doing. And at the time, I was doing buyers and sellers. They were doing just buyers. Anytime they had a seller, I would handle the sellers, kind of following the model.
Sure.
That went on. So 2014, we ended up, I think we were just over 50 sales. And at the end of 2014 with the 2 of them, I think that probably the 2 of them probably sold, from mid-year 2014 till the end. Between the 2 of them, we probably brought in about another 10 to 15 sales with the 2 of them, which was great. I mean, they did really well.
About 1 a month for each of them, something like that.
Yeah, basically. I mean, they did well. And then, the rest of 2014, it was just the three of us and an admin. I ended up bringing in a second admin because we were starting to get more sales. I needed an actual transaction coordinator. My transaction coordinator had been my executive assistant, my customer service person. She was managing my email, all that stuff. She was doing all of that. So we actually brought someone in to manage just transactions as well. And then really, I mean, honestly, from that point to today, it's all been kind of a blur, because we just started hiring, and I got very lucky that around that time I got connected with a lot of great people around the country that I'm still super close with today. Agents around the country that were growing their teams at the same time I was growing my team. And we all bounced ideas off of each other, and we said, hey, this is what we're doing. And we found somebody that had something that was working. Sometimes it was scripts, or sometimes it was a system or a process, and they would tell us about it and we'd all go implement it. So a lot of us out there today, that still talk, we all have very similar systems. Some of us have grown more than others. But altogether, our systems are very similar. So I was very lucky in that situation. So
how did you get connected with those processes? How did you get connected with those other agents?
It was a combination of things. Most of it was national events. Like we were all big with Zillow at that point. So anytime we go to a Zillow conference, we'd see the same people over and over again. Any other industry conferences, NAR conferences. By that time, I had joined KW as well. So it was a lot of the KW conferences. But we all got together. We stayed in touch via Facebook primarily. We've got a couple of groups that we all belong to today, a couple of messaging apps that we use that we all just stay in touch with each other constantly. And even today, I mean, we're still saying, hey, what are you guys doing about this? And everybody chimes in, and we all we share ideas. And it's great. I heard somebody one time say that there'll be a time in your life where you have to get on an airplane to go see your best friends. And that's kind of what it's like today. I mean, these guys that I'm super close to, and guys and gals that we're super close to, we jump on a plane to go somewhere and meet. Half the time, we don't care about the conference. We're just there for the people.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so we've had two buyer's agents, one assistant, and then we hit a blur. So help us unblur that a little bit. I know it went fast and furious.
It did. Yeah, it did. So we started hiring. We hired a few agents. We lost a couple of agents. There were some agents we hired that weren't a great fit. We didn't, honestly, I didn't hire well in some situations, and I hired really well in some situations.
What was the difference?
Honestly, luck.
Okay.
No, it's the difference in the agents there were some people that I hired that they just turned out they were hungry.
Yeah, what was the difference in your process? Was there a difference that you can identify?
Process?
Yeah, to hire bad versus good.
There at that point there really wasn't a process. I'll be perfectly honest.
Okay.
I felt like I was winging it. I would find people, I'd bring them in, I'd interview them, and if I thought that they would match well with the team and I thought that they could sell, I would hire them. And unfortunately, that's not a great process for hiring. It worked for the most part. We probably over the next year or two after that, we probably hired 6 or 8 more agents. We lost 1 or 2. So it wasn't a bad process. We did well. And we had some agents that just didn't work after a certain amount of time. They just weren't working. They just didn't seem to have the drive that we thought they did in an interview process.
How would you describe your culture?
That's a great question. I get asked that a lot. First off, we've done a really nice job with our culture. We're a tight-knit culture. We have our own office. We've always had our own office away from, like right now we're part of KW, but we were with KW, we had our own mega agent office, and we've been able to just drive our own culture. It's one where everybody helps everybody. There's no worrying about whether if I give this guy the opportunity to go show this house for me, then maybe he was going to steal that client. There's never been any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Everybody is very trusting, and we've had our share of drama over the years, but I think we've done a really nice job of weeding out the drama. And I think everybody today, I mean, people love coming into the office. We've got a cool office. I don't know if you're familiar with Richmond, but we're in the Scotts Addition area of Richmond, Virginia, around all the breweries and coffee shops and everything. So it's a great space. It's laid back, but at the same time, there's a ton of energy there, and people have a good time. We have wine on tap in the office. It's just a cool place for people to come and get their work done. But we've got a bunch of hard workers, the agents, the operations staff, the management team, everybody. They just come in, they put their heads down, they work, they sell, and everybody wants to sell. Everybody wants to be a top producer. We have some that will sell 20 properties a year, and we have some that'll sell 50 properties a year. And there's a place for all of them in our model, but it just works. It just works really well.
What's your organization look like today? What operations, lead generation, sales? Tell us about that.
Sure. So today we're still an internet lead driven team. We still work with Zillow. We work with Realtor.com. We do some other stuff too. We do some farming and things like that. But we're really a heavy lead driven team. We have all the processes in place to make sure that those leads are captured and handed off to an agent quickly and so forth. But the way we look today, the organizational structure basically looks like this. We've got, I believe we're at 38 agents right now. I tend to lose count sometimes, but we're at about 38 agents right now, and they're spread out pretty well. We went through the expansion model with KW, so we had some agents in North Carolina, Northern Virginia. Right now, we're focusing very heavily on our home market, Richmond, Virginia. We've got agents in Charlottesville, Virginia, Williamsburg, Virginia, Farmville, Charlottesville. I mean, we're basically all over the place, but we've got about 38 agents altogether, and we've got about another 8 agents right now that are in various stages of onboarding. So that's the agent population that we've got. Leadership team, we have, I've got a director of sales that's responsible for all of my agents in the Richmond market. And then I've got a director of expansion that's responsible for all of my agents outside of the Richmond market.
Okay.
And then we had a director of operations, but we figured out that was a position that we really didn't need because we were having a lot of push-pull between operations and sales. So to eliminate that issue, I put my operations people the operations people that supported my Richmond agents went under my Richmond director of sales. So now my director of sales is responsible for my operations team in Richmond and my sales team in Richmond. And the same thing is true with my expansion team. He was responsible for my operations team that supports his agents and so forth. So there was never that push-pull between the two departments. They were all working together and all reported to the same person to make that happen.
Got it. So that cohesion is really important then. It's
super important. And, we've seen it in the past, and I've seen it in other careers that I've been in, other companies that I've worked for. There was always that push-pull between operations and sales.
Sure.
It's always a he said, she said thing. So I figured I would eliminate that. But on our operations team, we're a fairly simple organization. We've got two transaction coordinators. We have a listing coordinator. We have a director of client experience, which is essentially our person that is responsible for maintaining contact with our clients after the sale. So they're responsible from the point of sale or from closing to infinity, essentially. So she manages and schedules all of our client events. She makes sure that we're doing pop buys, all the things that we all should be doing as individual agents. We're just figured out a way to systemize that and do it at scale.
So she organizes the agent. So she's more organized than sales oriented. Do I understand that correctly?
Exactly. She's a licensed agent herself, but her job is she takes care of just making sure that everybody is, we're still doing pop buys. We're doing contests. We're doing all those things that keeps our client base engaged after the sale. So she's the one that her job is basically getting us referrals.
Got it. And so this year, how many transactions will you do? Yeah, the shades, the sun's moving on you there, Mike.
Yeah, see the shade's kind of moving with me. I'll kind of move as we keep going. So this year we'll be between 750 and 800. We should hit the 800 number. It really just depends on how this last quarter kind of works itself out. We're already higher than we were last year, so we shouldn't have any problem. We'll definitely won't have any problem hitting the 750 number. 800 is our stretch goal, and there's a good chance we're going to hit that as well.
What's the expected volume at 800?
800, we will be right at about 200 million.
And what proportion of buy versus list on that?
70% buy, 30% list.
Okay. So you're
And
looking.
it's interesting though. I always hear, are you trying to move more towards list? We used to be a lot heavier on the list side than we were on the buyer side. In fact, in 2014, I was 70% list, 30% buy.
Sure.
And over time, that kind of went to 50-50. And just the makeup of our leads, the way our lead generation is, we get a lot of buy side leads. Now, don't get me wrong, we still maintain a really healthy listing inventory, but with the amount, with the issues that we have with inventory out there, we're really heavy on the buy side. So, I mean, we're still one of the top listing teams in the area for sure.
Sure. So let's go through, because I know that you were just winging it at the beginning in regards to the hiring process.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've systemized that at this point?
We have. So we, first off, nowadays I've gone through Recruit Select and I've done all of those things that KW offers. We still rely very heavily on a disc test. In fact, that's built into our application process. So when somebody applies to begin with, they're automatically sent a disc exam, and we get that right away. So we get an idea of what we're dealing with. I'm still a big believer, and I don't want a team of Ds. So it's
what are you looking for? Eyes? I mean, what are you looking for?
I'm looking heavy for eyes, C's. I mean, I like some D there. Don't get me wrong, especially with those that are going to be more listing heavy.
Sure.
I like to see those. I like to see some heavier D's there. But I'm really looking for kind of a medium D, high I, and a medium C.
Okay.
In my agents.
Makes sense.
And then once we receive the application, we review it. If we want to talk to them, we call first. We do a phone interview, and then we bring them in. And we typically have them talk to anywhere from 2 to about 5 different people in the organization. And it's going to be whoever the managing agent would be, or the sales manager, whether it's going to be Ben or Alicia, my expansion director, or my sales director. They're going to talk to them. They talk to them first. Then they bring in a couple of our agents. They have them talk to our agents so that they can get a real feel for what the business looks like. We have our agents talk to them to see, hey, is this person going to fit with our organization? And then finally, if everybody's in agreement that they look like a good hire, then I talk to them. And I'm really there just making sure they're a culture fit.
Sure.
I tell them a little bit about the history of the organization. I tell them about the vision for the company, where we're going, how we're going to get there, that type of thing. But I'm really trying to get out of them. Are they going to fit with the team, or are they going to be somebody that is going to be an issue for us?
So
and then after that, we make the decision.
And then you make that decision as a team. Go ahead and move over. Get out of that shade if you want.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I can. We can delay it here for a second. No worries. I can juggle balls, knives. I think I've got a lint brush over here that I can entertain us with. Well, all right, go ahead, Mike. All right. So I was just filling time, man. So, you look great. You look great. So with going back to that hiring process, and you're looking for that culture fit, that's what I heard that was really a priority. Yes. And then layers of a process of you talk to the potential manager, then various salespeople that you'll be working with, and it seems as though if there's like an overlay of culture that you're looking for there. Are you looking for a certain record or a certain background for a candidate for you to get into having a conversation with them?
Sure. So, I mean, our perfect candidate is somebody with less than 2 years of experience. We prefer them to be licensed. We prefer them to be in the business. We prefer them to be under 2 years in the business, though. But we really want them to have a few sales under their belt. We're not looking for somebody that's got 120 sales or anything like that. We're looking for that guy who's come in because everybody gets into real estate thinking it's going to be easy. They can make a whole bunch of money right away. And they're in the business, but they've seen how hard it actually is. And they see how hard it is to lead generate, and they see how hard it is to make the sale, and they see how hard it is to hold a sale together. Because those are the people, when we bring them into our organization,
they're going to appreciate you.
They appreciate it. Yeah. They know that, okay, these guys are handing us leads. They're giving us leads. They've got transaction coordinators that handle all the back end stuff for us, so we don't have to do it. And they realize they appreciate it. But if they come in brand new, not to say that my brand new agents don't appreciate it, but they come in brand new. There's a different level of appreciation for it, I think.
Well, they have a different perspective.
We don't hire new agents.
Yeah, they haven't gotten kicked in the gut yet. And,
They haven't. And you know what? We have brand new agents. Some of my absolute best agents that I've hired have been brand new agents.
Sure.
And it's really just dependent on the person. You're looking for that person who's, I always say I'm looking for the guy with a chip on his shoulder, who's got something to prove. And, and I say guy, I mean that, guy or gal.
Guy or gal, yeah.
Some of our, honestly, some of our best agents have been females. Our rock stars have been female. So, I mean, we're not looking for any particular type there. We're just looking for who's got the fire in their belly, who's got an axe to grind, and who's going to go out there and make something or make something happen. And that's what we hire. So whether they're a brand new agent or there's somebody that has been in the business for a little while, that's what we're looking for. I just want somebody that's ready to put their head down and grind it out, and not scared to do the work that it's going to take to sell 50 houses a year.
How do you attract the talent to you?
For the longest time, we had to do a lot of advertising to get people in, and we still do a lot of advertising. We do a lot of social media advertising. We do a lot of advertising on the job boards and things like that. And for the longest time, that's what it took, because nobody knew who the Hogan Group was. Nowadays, I'm fortunate in that we've got a strong enough name in our area that a lot of our recruits today are coming to us.
Yeah. When did that go over top? When did that crest the hill?
Yeah, it's kind of a moving target. I'd say over the last probably year to 2 years. So once we get to that point where we were top in our area, which probably happened about 2 years ago.
How many transactions was that?
And it was probably about 400 transactions or so.
Jeez. Okay.
Once we hit that point, it was, now people know who we are. So people will call us and say, hey, I'd like to talk with you. People who hadn't considered joining the team before, I think they're seeing a change in the market now. They're like, how can I compete against you guys? I can't. So they're calling us now as well. And, we're still doing the same things that we were doing before too. I'm talking to agents constantly. I do a lot of teaching myself. I used to teach at our association. I have a lot of people. In fact, I'd say probably a good 50% of my agents today, when they come in, they're like, yeah, you taught one of my classes way back when. Those types of things are great ways to get your name out and get people to know who you are. And then they start recognizing you, and they see things on social media, and they see things in the news, and they see your name, they see all your signs. They're like, man, maybe I really should talk to this guy.
Sure.
But that's been a big part of it for us now.
Okay. So if you were to go backwards, and let's say, it seems to me like you really got serious about this about 5 years ago. Would that be true?
Yeah. Okay. Very, very much so.
So let's say Mike Hogan today, not 2019, he's talking to Mike 2014. What would Mike Hogan 2019 say?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. I'd say go hard, go big early. I was, even though I've always been a risk taker, I was scared to death. For the longest time, I held true at 4 agents, because I thought that that's all the Richmond area could support, was a team of 4 agents. And I was scared to get bigger than that. And it took me a while. And then I went to 5, and then I went to 6. And the next thing I knew, I was at 15. I would tell myself, go big, go hard, and do it a lot faster than you did. I mean, granted, we did it in 5 years. That's not bad. But I probably would have gotten moving and taken bigger risks a lot earlier on.
Is there one mistake over the last 5 years that you would say, oh my goodness, I'm grateful to learn from that, yet would have wanted to avoid that one?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously tons of mistakes in there. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that we didn't make any mistakes. One big one, I can't really point to any one big one. I will say that probably the one thing that it cost me a lot of money was, in anticipation of growth, I hired a lot more employees than I needed at one point.
Okay.
And my thought was, let's hire the employees before I need them. And as it turned out, I didn't really need them at all, and the business didn't support them. And I was losing some serious cash there for a while. And luckily, I figured it out, and it was a really painful thing to have to do. But I had to let a few people go that I didn't want to let go. Even though we were still growing, we weren't growing at the rate that I needed to grow in order to support what I had hired. So my lesson from that was, be a little more conservative with where I think I'm going to grow, because as I get bigger, you don't grow at the same rate you do when you're smaller. It's easy to double when you're doing 50 deals a year than it is when you're doing 500 deals a year. And so being a little more conservative with my projections and where I think I'm going with the business, and hiring as I get closer to when I'm actually going to need somebody. I was thinking of hiring people a year before I need them. And realistically, I should be able to hire people a month or two before I need them and make that work. And that was probably, that was the one that probably cost me the most money. But other than that, I mean, there's been a bunch of little things that, I've tried things that I wish I hadn't tried channels that I wish I hadn't tried.
Like what?
But none that, I've tried, I did like things like, I shouldn't say I'm online. I don't want to call any particular channels out. But there's a couple of lead providers out there that I've worked with that, it was really just a waste of money. I wish that I hadn't done it. I have probably one of the things that I learned in my career, and I tell this to my agents and I tell this to other agents, is figure out what you're good at and work with that.
Yeah.
And agents have this mentality of they want to do 10 or 15 different things. And I did that early on. But they have this mentality of wanting to do 10 or 15 things. They want to go door knocking, and they want to do circle down, and they want to work expireds, and they want to do all this litany of things that's out there. And there's a lot of ways to make money in this business. There's a ton of ways to make money in this business. But if you're doing them all, very rarely are you going to be good at any of them. So I say, I've always tell people, look, focus on what you've got that works, blow it up, do amazingly well with it. And if once you get to that point where it's working and you've mastered that channel, then maybe add one more. But keep your focus in there. Agents are easy to get distracted on doing bunches of different things and chasing the next shiny object that's going to get them another 5 sales a year. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that agents have. Just focus on what works, what's good for you, and stick with that and blow it up.
That's awesome, Mike. That's a great little bit of advice for us to go out on. And I know that that's true advice, whether if you're joining an incredible team like yours, like the Hogan Group, or if you're a new agent or you're going from 50 to 800. I think that's fantastic advice. So, Mike, if I'm an agent and I have a referral for you, or if I'm a client, I'm in the Central Virginia area, how do I get in touch with you?
So phone number, the best thing to do is call into our company number. It's 804-571-2900. That will get you an agent immediately. We have agents on duty all the time. So that'll get you an agent immediately. If you want to talk to me directly, you can find me on almost every social media channel that's out there. Just look up Mike Hogan or RVA Realtor. My personal email address is mike@hogangrp.com. So GRP is a abbreviation for group. So mike@hogangroup.com.
mike@hogangrp.com. Michael, thank you so much. I wish you much continued success. And
awesome.
I want to grab some coffee with you sometime soon.
Yeah, let's definitely do it.
All right, cool. Thanks, Mike.
With you. All right, buddy.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.